Stories are powerful. A single story can change how we see an issue almost instantly. But when it comes to understanding what's actually happening in the world, stories and evidence aren't always the same. In many debates, people rely on something called anecdotal evidence. That means using individual examples or personal stories as proof of a broader claim. The reasoning usually goes something like this. A specific case happened. Therefore, the larger pattern must be true. But that leap from one example to a general conclusion is where the problems can start. You sometimes see this in discussions about transgender people. For example, someone might point to a single controversial event, maybe a specific incident in sports, a school policy dispute, or a viral news story. From that example, they conclude that the issue as a whole must work the same everywhere. But that conclusion assumes that one example represents the entire situation. And that's a much bigger claim. The problem with anecdotes isn't that they're false. Many anecdotes describe real events. The problem is that one example can't tell us how common something is. To understand patterns, we need broader evidence. Things like large data sets, systematic studies, long-term trends. Those kinds of evidence help us understand whether something is rare, common, increasing, or decreasing. Anecdotes can highlight an issue worth investigating, but they can't answer those questions by themselves. Even though anecdotes are limited as evidence, they're incredibly persuasive. That's because stories are easy for our brains to remember. They create emotional reactions, and they make abstract issues feel concrete. So when people hear a compelling story, it can feel like strong evidence, even when it's just a single example. When you hear an argument built around an anecdote, a useful question to ask is this example representative of the larger pattern? Sometimes the answer is yes, but to know that we need evidence beyond the story itself. That's where data, research, and broader context become important. Individual stories can be meaningful. They can highlight real experiences and real concerns. But when we are trying to understand a complex issue, they're only the starting point, not the final proof. Because the difference between a story and a pattern is one of the most important things to understand when evaluating arguments. And recognizing that difference can completely change how